Now, when it comes to making a roster for any fighting game, there's always a level of difficulty present because you want to satisfy as many players as you can while also making sure that your picks are very diverse. Well, when it comes to Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, how about you take that same level of difficulty and amp it up by 1,000? This is by far the hardest roster prediction I've ever had to make, and it's mostly due to the sheer magnitude of the Marvel catalog itself. There's thousands of different characters to pick from within this universe, and hundreds of them are super popular to the general fandom. Knowing this, I ended up realizing that there's no way I'm going to be able to satisfy everyone when making my roster prediction, and neither will Arc System work. But just like Arc Sys, I do want to try and see how close I can get, because I believe that even though we can't satisfy everyone, we should be able to make a general roster that will be good enough that most people will find attractive and enjoyable. So when it comes to making my roster prediction, we need to include characters that feel like the face of Marvel. These are the characters that instantly come to mind when you think of the Marvel IP and have a long, rich history of being fan favorites. This can be from the comic books or the MCU. As long as these characters are extremely recognizable by the masses, they should count as the faces. We need to make sure that we include picks that offer a balance of battle types and styles. This means making sure that different character archetypes are covered and represented, like zoners, grapplers, rushdown characters, and etc. Finally, some of the characters we need to add need to have never shown up in a fighting game before. Making sure that underrepresented characters finally get some time to shine is important, and it helps introduce players to characters that they might have never seen before and end up loving. Following a criteria like this should allow us to build a great starter roster for this game, and it should give us a general idea of the type of characters we should be looking for. The hard thing about all of this though is that how do we finalize a base roster that only includes 30 characters? Now, I specifically went with 30 for my roster because I imagine for a 4v4 game they will have to make a base roster bigger than the one that they did for Dragon Ball FighterZ, but I don't know if I'm super confident that they'll make a roster bigger than Marvel vs. Capcom 3. This means that 30 characters allow me to kind of sit in the middle so that they'll at least satisfy people with more characters that they did within the base roster of Fighter, since people did think it was small back then, and they'll be close enough that it'll be comparable to the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 roster. They could do more, they could do less, but I'm hoping that 30 is at least the bare minimum that they go for. And I believe to get this started, we at least want to get ahead and knock out all the characters that we already know are in the game so far, and that includes 8 characters to knock this off, which is Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Storm, Doctor Doom, Miss Marvel, Star-Lord, and Ghost Rider. Now that we got those guys out the way, let's get into this roster prediction. We're going to start off with the man Hulk. Hulk shouldn't be that big of a surprise with making it into the Marvel game because he's a big representation not only within the MCU, he's really popular within the comic book fandom. He's also hardly ever missed any form of Marvel game that comes out, especially if it's centered around the Avengers, even like with like Wolverine, because they have a big comic book line there. So knowing this and realizing that Hulk's popularity trumps a lot of characters in the Marvel universe, it's just a no-brainer for him to make it to this roster. We also know that there isn't really any big bodies that we've seen so far within Marvel Tokon, and he's a really easy one to go for. And the unique thing with Hulk is that he can fit different forms of archetypes for a big body character, where you could make him a grappler, or you could make him a big rush down monster, kind of like how he was in Marvel 3. The skies is pretty much the limits when it comes with this character, even though he's just a big green man with strength. Next up we have is Black Panther. This is a character that has gained a massive fan base in the past couple years, but he has gained a lot of respect within the Marvel universe way before his MCU introduction. So combining that respect as well as with the growing fan base that he's developed ever since his introduction within the MCU, when he was played by the great Chadwick Boseman, I think it's a great opportunity to bring him back within a Marvel fighting game. His only opportunity so far was to be played in Marvel Infinite, and he kind of wasn't that great in that game from my understanding. He was also a DLC character, so a lot of people that weren't heavily invested into that game didn't even really get a chance to play him, especially since that game kind of died off pretty quickly. So I think offering Black Panther another opportunity to be a part of a fighting game and really showcase what he can do will really be cool, especially since he's gained so much popularity since MVCI came out, because you can see a lot of people enjoy playing him within Marvel Rivals. Next we have Thor, the God of Thunder, one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time. This guy is an easy no-brainer to be added to, and I just would love to see how they would add him in and make him in their anime-esque style they've been going for within Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. Thor is a character that's appeared in basically any form of media within the Marvel universe, so I don't really expect him to miss out on this game, especially since he already has a statue of himself with some of the other Avengers members within the Tokon trailer already. That to me, that just kind of alludes that he's an easy pick to be coming really soon, so I easily imagine imagine him to be added in. Plus, I think that he fits really well within the fighting game system, as we have seen him work well within the Marvel vs. Capcom series, even though his kit is kind of weird. I really do want to see them expand upon what the Marvel did with him and make something better, because a lot of the Marvel characters within MVC, in my opinion, didn't always feel the greatest. They just felt kind of weird for what it was, and Thor was one of them. He was a very niche pick that a lot of players just didn't play, so I would love to see Arx's take on this to make him even cooler. You've seen him in Marvel Rivals. My boy is the goat in there. I love him. He's super fun. Next, we have Scarlet Witch. I think another easy pick, and one that I'm actually going to be picking over our other magic user, Doctor Strange. I think for my base roster, Doctor Strange won't be a character that makes it, solely because I think if we want another character to have magic representation and we want to introduce a new character that's never been into a fighting game, I think Scarlet Witch is an easy pick because of how powerful she is as a magic user, and again, because of the increase in popularity that she's gained since her introduction within the MCU. Scarlet Witch is by far one of the most popular women within the MCU right now because of the powerhouse that she is, and it's an amazing TV show that she had, as well as all of her additions and support that she's provided throughout the whole Avengers run. I think her powers are really cool and really unique, and allows her to be a very creative fighting game character that I can imagine Arxis will have a lot of fun working with. Her introduction also allows us to bring in her brother possibly and get some interesting dynamics, because we already know Arxis is going to be really big in doing unique character interactions like they did back with Dragon Ball FighterZ, which I'm super excited to see what they do with this game. So knowing that, Scarlet Witch is an easy pick, and I would just love to see how they will work with her kit within the current game so far. Next we have is a character that will be returning into a fighting game franchise, though, as he's already been represented in the Marvel vs. Capcom series, and he's one of the biggest villains within the entire MCU. With me saying that, you guys already know who it is. I'm talking about Thanos. Thanos is a character that has been done within Marvel games quite a bit, but he hasn't been done to the complete full effect that I think that he truly deserves. So far, the full imagination that I have of him that I would love to see him is what Maximilian and his team did with the Marvel Infinite and Beyond mod, with him being able to control all the different stones in different ways, allowing him to manipulate characters and his own abilities with the stones, providing himself a really unique kit. I would love to see what Arc System Work could create with that and provide Thanos that form of utility and uniqueness throughout his kit to make him a super strong character. And he's somebody that's grown in even more massive popularity than what he had even back in the day. Everybody all loves the big purple tyrant within the MCU, so it would be no surprise to me that if they add Thanos in, because of his sheer popularity as a villain in general. Now we're basically kind of done with the MCU representation. I think this is the aspect that we wanted to limit ourselves a little bit, because that was one of the big issues that everybody had with the MVCI roster, was so many MCU representations. And so with this next pick, I think this is going to be a great warm welcome that I think everybody's looking forward to see when his trailer drops. The man, the myth, the legend. We're here to talk about Logan, aka Wolverine. When you talk about any of the faces within Marvel, you can't go too much further without talking about X-Men. And when you talk about the X-Men, you can't not talk about Wolverine. Wolverine has been the face of the X-Men for years, and he still is currently to this day. This is because his sheer run within all of the movies and films that they've done with him. Hugh Jackman has been the main representation of what Wolverine looks like, and everybody loves him for it. He's super cool. He fixed the character so well. And when you see him not only within films, but Wolverine within the cartoons and video games, his dynamic with other characters in the other X-Men, and just his overall aura and persona is just so contagious that you just can't not like him. And his overall kit and design works so well with putting him within the fighting game. It would actually be a crime to not have Wolverine come back within the fighting game or in any Marvel game. That's why he's been in most of the Marvel games that's released in the recent years. He's been pretty good in decent one of them. Like, he just kind of got a little nerfed within Marvel Rivals because he's been going a little crazy. Everybody loves X-Men. Everybody loves Logan. So, of course, add him in. Now, next, I wanted to add another veteran from the X-Men to make this possibly the last veteran that we add, just because I want to add a little bit of new characters from the X-Men that hasn't got any representation. But this one, it was a toss-up between him and one other prime representation from the X-Men for the starting roster. But I think if I want to add in another one, it would have to be that man, Cyclops. Cyclops is the leader. Come to me, my X-Men. That is him. That is the GOAT. And this is coming from somebody that didn't actually like Scott too much until recently with X-Men 97. I've also been getting into comics a bit more and exploring his character because, you know, he was somebody seemed like I just misunderstood. I didn't realize how much value of a character he was outside of him being a leader. But overall, Scott is a super cool character that they can do a lot with their kit. I feel like within the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, even the things that they did with Scott, I feel like it wasn't a fully realized thing that they could have went a lot crazier with his overall kit. They could have made him a lot more of an interesting character. And I think knowing ArcSys and knowing the type of characters they aim for with designing them, especially since they're so keen on being anime as fuck with their fighting games, I think that they could do a really good job of making Scott really cool. Also, the dynamic between Scott and Wolverine is pretty good, that you can have a lot of cool interactions and stuff with him, and then possibly when other future X-Men come about to add him in, like of course if they add Jean, there's a whole unique dynamic right there that I'm just super excited and wondering how that's going to go about when it comes to seeing the ideas that ArcSys is going to make. Adding Wolverine and Scott is going to be really easy to do, and it should be honestly a no-brainer when adding them. And if you're wondering who I picked him over, and some people might be upset about this, it was Magneto. But we'll talk about Magnus a little later into the video, don't worry. Enough of the veterans, like I said though. Now I want to add in 2 new reps. That's our X-Men that are popular and have recently gained popularity, that I believe deserve the chance to be in a fighting game for the first time. And I think a lot of people will actually be excited to see these 2. These are 2 women that have grown to be great characters within the X-Men franchise and have shown that they have worthy capability because they've grown even a bigger fan base. That is Jubilee and Magic. Jubilee is a character that I believe that should have been in a Marvel fighting game for so long now. I think she is like an assist within Marvel 1, but she's not a playable character. And I think with Marvel vs. Tokon, they can finally fix that issue because Jubilee's kit is so unique and it looks so fun that I can imagine them going super crazy with coming up with a kit concept idea on how she could play as a fighting game character. She's also been showcased pretty recently within the X-Men 97 cartoon as well. And they've shown that Jubilee does have a fan base of people that actually love and adore her, and that she does have a fan base that's strong enough to allow her to be a part of this roster. Even though I don't think how big a character is, it's truly important to them making it. But overall, I think the kit that she offers allows her to potentially be maybe like a mid-range zoner or maybe a set play character of some sort. Something unique they can do with her abilities that I think would be really cool to see. Then we have basically her counter opposite, which I think who would be a rushdown character or like a heavy rushdown character because she carries that big sword, that girl Magic. Magic is a character that has gained really big popularity since the introduction of her character within Marvel Rivals. She's one that a lot of people didn't really know she was an X-Men member before, from my understanding. I know, at least for me, I didn't know who she was. But learning more about her through Marvel Rivals and seeing her kit and her powers and the thing that she can do, and then all the cool things that she's done in the comics, I think it's kind of a no-brainer to add Magic in. She's a great representation of what the current state of a lot of the newer characters a part of X-Men look like, and she is a really good character that a lot of people just overall enjoy and love. I can also see all of the skins and stuff they come up with making with this character because of what they've already started doing within Marvel Rivals. So I would love to see the dynamic of having her within this game. Now, I know I said that's the end of some OGs, that I was going to be done with Wolverine and Cyclops when it comes to some older X-Men characters, but I still got to talk about two that people will love and enjoy as well. And one of them is one of my favorite Marvel characters again of all time. But to start, we got to bring up that girl Psylocke, but more specifically the samurai version of her introduced within Marvel Rivals, because we got to have a samurai, a ninja character within any fighting game, and I think Psylocke is the one that would easily fit this archetype. This is something that would be really interesting to do because not only would she be a returning character within a Marvel fighting game, but she'll actually be a completely different archetype of character than what she was when she was originally in Marvel 2. For the most part, Marvel 2, she was used for her assists, but if I'm not mistaken, she's more like a melee focused character that uses like her abilities and powers for her attacks. But this one will be using more of a ninja swordsman like kit that ties and imbues her powers within use of her sword play, and that would essentially allow them to pull from a lot of different characters they made before. I can easily see them pulling a bit of Bike and Chip, Johnny, some of the crazy samurai characters, maybe a little bit of Naga Ryuki with a little touch of that, within Psylocke to make a really strong and unique character that they're pretty much used to making. And I think, again, similar to like Jubilee, Magic, especially with Magic, Psylocke's newfound popularity within the recent years has rejuvenated because she was once a popular character before, but now that she's back in the limelight again, so many people love her again, and they would love to see her within the fighting game, and I think that she would be an easy pick. an easy pick to add in. But then lastly, for my X-Men, we have my boy Gambit. I don't care if Gambit has been in most of the Marvel fighting games or how people may feel about him, but Gambit deserves to be in another fighting game. We haven't seen Gambit in much media in a long time. He's not even in Marvel Rivals yet. Let my boy get some love and make the card gimmick a bit more unique than what they did with Marvel. It's not bad. He's actually really fun within the Marvel games. But similar to Cyclops, I feel like they could have done a lot more with the character to make him stand out and be a lot stronger. And then with the representation of him in X-Men 97, his popularity in the comics, him coming back within the MCU and stuff, there's a lot you can do with Gambit and make him really cool. And he has a huge fan base of people that love this character ever since all the way back within the 90s and early 2000s. Gambit has always been that dude. Everybody loves him. So to introduce him into the game should be a no-brainer. Please add my boy. Please, base roster. I'm tired of waiting for him to come back. Please, base roster. I know you can do it, Arxis. All right, next we have one that it was kind of a toss-up, and I think they can go either or with these two, but I ended up going with a returning character, but a new version of representing him, and that is Iron Fist. Iron Fist, but similar to Marvel Rivals, this could be the Lin Lee version. Lin Lee version of Iron Fist is a good representation of a lot of the newer heroes within the Marvel universe. It still adds in that very iconicness of the overall character, because everybody, for the most part, that's really big into Marvel knows how cool of a character Iron Fist is. This is just a newer take on him, similar to like with Robbie Reyes with their Ghost Rider pick for Marvel Tōkon. I think they fit in a pretty similar bubble there, and I would love to see them to do the same with Lin, because Lin also is known as, I believe, Sword Master, so they could possibly fuse the two together to create a really unique version of the character. I believe there even is a version of Lin Lee with the Iron Fist where he has like a blade that he wears on his hand. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll try to put an image on screen of it for you guys to see, and he looks so badass. I would love to see them do something very cool and unique with him, especially since in Marvel 3, for the most part, Iron Fist is pretty trash. They didn't do that man too much love. I think Justin Wall used to play him a little bit early on when the game was out because it's just fun, but my boy deserves some love to actually be good within a fighting game again. I'm thinking of how they could make Iron Fist. I instantly think of their version of Chip. Them making Iron Fist the Marvel Chip, super insane. That would be super cool, super fun to see, and I'm pretty sure they'll be able to easily pull it off. But if you guys want to know who he was going alongside with, I just spoke of Shang-Chi. Now Shang-Chi and him can both exist in the game because Shang-Chi has the rings to wear. But for my list, I decided to go with Iron Fist over him, and I can imagine him to add Shang-Chi in as DLC, which I'll be super hyped for. Next, we have another character that's in a similar position as him, where it's going to be a returning character, but a different representation of them. And this is Hawkeye, but it's going to be with Kate Bishop. We need a zoner. I haven't really touched too many zoners within this game on my list so far, and I think it's important that we have zoning representation within a fighting game at all times. No matter if people enjoy it or not, there's people out there that do want to play a zoner, so they deserve to have their archetype represented. And I think having Kate Bishop wear the mantle of Hawkeye this time around, because I like the idea of bringing in newer characters or newer version or iterations of heroes, because a lot of stuff in recent Marvel media, they're trying to build up a lot of their young protagonists and heroes that they've been wanting to having the same opportunity as a lot of the older characters, and some of them that have been successful, some haven't. So I think it's a great time, a great opportunity to do stuff like this, and Kate Bishop is one of those other ones where I think that we all love Clint. Clint is cool. But I think Kate has a solid enough fan base that, you know, I think we might be okay with not having Clint for the one time and having her being here. And I think in some instances, Kate does have some more interesting dynamics about her that they could go really cool with her kid. So who knows? I'm looking forward to see what they do with her if they end up adding her, but she would be fun. All right, and next we're leading up into like more of a galaxy section of our outer space heroes and villains or whatever you want to call them. These are the characters that's going to be the big powerhouses, the ones I think are going to be really fun to the game. And some of them are going to be very unique that you probably are going to be surprised on why I went with them. But the first up is one pretty easy one that I think a lot of people will be welcome to, and that is Groot and Rocket. Yes, we're going to make them one character, and this is because I think the likelihood of people wanting to play Groot and Rocket separately is pretty slim, but I think that you could convince a lot of people to be really interested in the character if you tie them together to have a very unique dynamic. I believe in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, they're also tied together as well, but I think it's Groot assisting Rocket, which I would like for them to either two things. They provide the dynamic ability to pick who is the leading character, so you can have Rocket be assisted by Groot, or you can have Groot be assisted by Rocket. But if you can't, I think I would like to have Groot as the main guy and then Rocket assisting him. This is because again we need another big body representation, and I think that would fit right alongside with our Thanos and Hulk pick. This version of a big body can also be very unique because with Rocket's addition being a part of him, he could also be like a big body that's a set play character in some instances. Kind of like how when, even though particular isn't a set play character, but he does have like his big shield super that he does in order for you to kind of fear him approaching. I want Groot to feel like that he can put things down on the screen because Rocket is being able to throw down traps and stuff, or be able to shoot at ranges where that you can feel Groot's and Rocket's presence without them needing to always play this big body bash type of gameplay like you normally would with a brawl or like a rushdown character of a big body. I don't specifically want them to be a grappler either. I think grapplers in tag games aren't like that unique or normally don't fit too well. I think there a lot of times within tag games you kind of want grapplers to be a little bit of a hybrid character to make them a bit more interesting. I do think that they could make it in. They are Guardians of the Galaxy representation, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy again has gained a lot of popularity over the years through the movies and films that I think a lot of people would enjoy having them within the roster. Next is a weird pick. One of you guys are more than likely never going to guess that I went with, but I've been looking more and more into this character, and I think that she's just super sick to have, and that's Fa Lavelle, aka Martyr, aka Captain Marvel. If you guys don't know who this is, she's a character that's tied to, I believe his name is Marvel, but Fa Lavelle is a part of a different universe. Well, she's in a multi different types of universe with different representation of who she is, but this version, Fa Lavelle, is one that is a very strong cosmic being that you guys can see in these godly pictures and art styles of her. And the reason I went with her is that there is a new game called Marvel Cosmic Invasion that recently came out or is about to come out that's been showing off some of these big cosmic characters that have been looking really cool, and she was one of them. And when I'm doing my research on her, not only is she a really strong cosmic being, but she's also have different versions of her that makes her have a lot of connections with different characters that can be a part of this roster. For instance, like I mentioned before, she was Captain Marvel at one point. There's a universe where Marvel ended up making her Captain Marvel, that universe, which allows us to feel that cosmic being role of Captain Marvel without having to specifically go with Carol Danvers. She also has a version of her where she's a part of the Nova Corps. She's secondhand to Richard Rider, which allows her to be an integral piece of stories with other association of characters like Nova. One actually main reason I put her here is that she becomes a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and this is also something that's being currently pushed and represented within the MCU. As if you guys didn't see the end of Guardians 3, the little kids that they showed there, the little girl that was with Rocket and them, that's her. So she's starting to get a slight push within the MCU, as well as that she's been getting a lot of love. I wouldn't say recently, but within the past couple years within the Marvel comic books, they're showing how powerful a representation that she is and a really good character that she could be. And I think that this is another way, similar to like Magic and all of them, the characters that we know was kind of tucked away within the comic books and people didn't know too much about them. I think this is a great opportunity to have her being introduced within a fighting game, within a game where a lot of eyes are going to be on and people are going to be able to learn more about her. I think Cosmic Invasion is doing that currently right now too, and with her inclusion. I would love for Marvel Arxis to actually take up that mantle and do it here as well. I also think that based off some of the things, a description I've seen with her, and that she's able to create like an energy sword or whatever, I think honestly Arxis could go really crazy with the type of kit that they could give her, making her extremely interesting. And I just think she looks cool. She's like a badass woman, bro. I love her design, especially when I think this is her Martyr design, which super sick, super sick. Next one is a character I mentioned just a second ago, that man Nova, but this can go as a Richard Rider or Sam Alexander. I think most people will probably like Richard, as most people enjoys Richard's story a lot more. But a lot of people are open to Sam. Sam is a good character as well. He just isn't as beloved as Richard because of all the trials and tribulations that Richard went through in order to be considered one of the strongest characters within the Marvel universe. The reason I want to add his inclusion is to not only bring a familiar face from the Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, but to also tie in all these characters together for the other big bad I wanted to add onto this roster as a unique pick, which is Annihilus. Annihilus, similar to Fa Lavelle and even Nova, he's another character that's being pushed within the Cosmic Invasion game. Annihilus is actually the big bad of that game. He's also starting to get built up within the MCU, if I'm not mistaken, and he's been showing up a lot more in different media that I think that he's a perfect villain to be added into a fighting game. He'll be a newer character to a fighting game, similar to all the ones that we listed before, and so it'll check off that box of allowing him to add new people in, or also allowing him to play a unique role in comparison to the other villains that we have so far. I think Annihilus, Nova, and Violet, all really good picks, and all provide like this form of synergy and dynamic within the game that it'll allow us to have like very unique interactions and callbacks with them. And I would love to see how Arxis pulls that off, and it'll be super fun. Now, I know we just went through a bunch of characters. You guys are probably like, you know, this list sound a little mid, bro. Where the heavy hitters? And my fault. You know what? It's time to bring it back. It's time to dial it up again. Add my boy Venom. If you're having Spider-Man in the game, there's no way that we don't bring Venom in. Venom is a great integral piece to any Marvel video game that involves Spider-Man. It's almost impossible to have one and not the other at this point, because a lot of times they're always included together because of their strong dynamic with one another, whether it be working together, being enemies against each other. The dynamic is so strong, it's so unique that there's so much that they can do with them. Venom is also just a strong and integral character on his own, that he has such a strong popularity that he's one of the most popular characters within the Marvel universe, to making him just a general good pick overall. He also fills that big body position that we want to go for, but he'll also again be that big body dynamic where he doesn't have to be the regular old slow grappler style. He can be similar to his iteration within Marvel's Capcom Infinite and even Marvel 1, Marvel 2, where he has great movement. Similar to how he is within Marvel Rivals as well. He has great movement because of his swinging abilities like Spider-Man. Can't wait to see what they do, because I feel like Venom is just a no-brainer. I just don't imagine them not adding him into the base roster. Next, we have Daredevil, a character that has been popular for years. And again, with the whole thing with TV shows for Marvel, his has been one of the most beloved and favorite ones that everybody enjoys. And he hasn't been within a Marvel fighting game. And it's honestly so surprising that is, because of who he is and how great he is at combat and how interesting of a character Daredevil is. But I think it's a no-brainer for him to be in the game because he's actually already in the game. If we look at some of the footage within the Marvel Tokon trailer, and we look at that part section of the stage where it shows Hell's Kitchen and it shows like his law firm, if you look in the window, Matt is actually hiding kind of in the window, peeping out, even though he's blind. He's listening out to the fight that's going on between whoever's out on stage at the time. They mentioned a lot of things about like stage Easter eggs and stuff that we should look out for, and I think that was an Easter egg to pretty much let us know that Daredevil is more than likely going to be a character on the roster. He is an easy iteration within the game that I will be super excited to see what Arxis will come up with his extreme dynamic of being such a great close combat style character. Again, I would just love to see Arxis take on it. Next, we have the Punisher, who brings the dynamic with Daredevil. These two guys always run into each other all the time, and they have great synergy with one another when they're being included. Punisher is also a character that's been showing up a lot more in the Marvel games, and I think we need a gunner character to be a part of this roster, which we actually have two more we're going to go over next. And I think he's the main one that we want to introduce, because outside of the other two, he's going to be primarily using weaponry with shooting shotguns, rocket launchers, or whatever they could come up with. I believe they could make essentially Punisher the Chris Redfield of this game, but possibly even cooler. So we'll see. I would love to see what they'll do with Punisher. I think he'll be really fun. Definitely add him in. He's my pick for this roster. And then for my last two, we have two characters that I think are huge fan favorites that people would love to see in the fighting game, and one has never been in a fighting game, and he's about to release in Marvel Rivals. Yeah, have you guys already heard me? That man, Blade. Blade is a character that is a crime that he's never been in a Marvel fighting game, and it honestly doesn't make sense that he hasn't been in one. And so we're here to correct that, and we're going to add him in here. But the easiest thing they can do to make him super cool, and I think that a lot of people will like him once he becomes a character, is give him Dante functions. Make him the Dante of Marvel Tokon. Give him cool ass combos with swords and guns. Make him do some crazy shenanigans. Make him be super fun. Blade is the perfect character to do this. While also showing his vampiric isms within his kit. I would love to see what Arxis actually does with his design and how his overall gameplay is going to be. He could easily be the Dante of the game. But outside of Blade, the only other gunman who's also a sword user that we want to be in here, who actually has a great dynamic with Dante within the Marvel vs. Capcom series, y'all already know, it's that man, Deadpool. Deadpool is a character that fits a lot of builds. He's a character that's very popular, that a lot of people enjoy. He's also been in the previous Marvel fighting games that a lot of people love as well. He also fixed that joke character dynamic where he's joking, he's a lot of fun, but he doesn't necessarily have to be bad in fighting games because of how powerful and strong Deadpool showcases himself with his skill set with swordsmanship and gunplay. So with knowing that, I think it's perfect for him to be an inclusion, especially since he has a lot of dynamic with characters. Like he has a dynamic with Wolverine. He knows Spider-Man. He has run in with the Avengers overall, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a lot lot of reasons that you can add Deadpool in, and there's so much funny dynamics and stuff they can do with this character to make him an easy and enjoyable iteration or inclusion within the roster that I don't think anybody will have any issues with. I'm pretty sure he's also one of the characters that people would love to see in Marvel Rivals 2. But that is my 30 character roster. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that because that was actually a lot of fun. I mentioned that I have some honorable mentions. My honorable mentions, I'm just going to again speed run through them all together right now, was Magneto, Gamora, and Cable. Magneto, again, I said I ended up going with Scott over him just because I think that it would be a bit more interesting to have a game where you don't have a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom inclusion. What I mean by that is that the goal of Marvel Tokon isn't to replace Marvel vs. Capcom. It's not here to be a Marvel vs. Capcom light. It wants to be its own thing. And so understanding that, I think that there needs to be strides that have to be made within the roster that allows them to set themselves apart while also still including a lot of characters that people love and enjoy, which I think my roster mostly covers that. If you agree to disagree, all cool. But also when it comes to characters that represent a franchise, I think that there are faces of fighting games, characters that when you see the fighting game, you know what their game is. And I think one of the characters that does that is Magneto. Magneto is the face of Marvel vs. Capcom because of how strong of a character he is within Marvel 2 and Marvel 3. And because of that and having his inclusion, I think that puts a lot of expectations on what people will be looking for when this character finally joins the roster. Him not being base roster doesn't mean I don't think he won't make it into the game. The Magneto will be an easy inclusion that he will eventually make it into this game. But I think when setting up a base roster, I think they could take the risk of not including him and having him coming later as DLC because of the whole stigma around that character and the expectation that he'll be had of like everybody potentially wanting him to be very similar to his Marvel vs. Capcom iteration. And I can only imagine the backlash they'll get if he doesn't live up to that. Gamora, she was a pick that I could have went with if I didn't go with Father Veil, but I think Father Veil is a much more interesting character and one I would be more interesting to see, even though Gamora only had a little bit of shine within Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. But I can always imagine her coming back and introducing some really cool gameplay and fun tactics because she was a lot of fun in Infinite, and I can imagine that Arc System Work would do a good job with her. And then we have Cable. Cable could easily be a part of this roster, and I think they have the greatest opportunity to make Cable more than just a zoning dickhead. I'm sorry for people that love Cable in MVC2, but I think that character is very boring there, and they missed out on a lot of really cool things they could have done with that character. And so him being included into this game, I think is very likely. But I think on the other hand, for my choice of not picking Magneto, I think that they will want to pair him Magneto with heavy hitters with his introduction of part of the X-Men, and I think Cable is another strong character they could easily bring in with Magneto that people will be hyped for like a DLC pack. But yeah, that is my Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls roster prediction. I don't expect everybody to agree with all the picks that I made just because I know I did make some pretty bold ones, which was one of the goals here. I wanted to have some familiar faces in here that people would enjoy and love and like, but I also want to include some picks that kind of spoke to me, for one, to be very unique and introduce some things that I would be excited to see Arxis end up doing if they got the opportunity to do so or took the risk of doing so. And so with that being said, let me know what are your guys' roster predictions in the comments below, what characters you want to see. I'm excited to see whatever future upcoming announcements stuff we get for this game, as I imagine. That'd be very hyped to see. That is everything for this video. I appreciate you guys liking and love and support. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new, and always remember to believe in you that believes in yourself. I'll see you guys in the next one.